So before we look at how, let's talk about why I believe having a retrieve is so important and the key points to training and maintaining it in all environments. Relationship is something most trainers will drill into you continuously. I truly believe that it is one of the most important ingredients to success with your agility dogs, and having a great relationship is one of the essential building blocks to creating that amazing retrieve we all dream of. Toys are obviously a great way to reward your dogs, especially for agility, as it builds drive, focus, and are easy tools to use. But food for some dogs will be their highest value reinforcer, and we always have to use the highest value reward we can when we want to create drive and enthusiasm. But even if I was just using food to reward, I would still sometimes need the food in something I can throw, like a lotus ball, and I would still expect them to retrieve the ball after they'd eaten the food from it. 1, to make it easier for me to reload it, and 2, because I want them to value the pouch the food was in as well as the food itself, even if they won't tug on it.
Okay guys, so now let me ask you a question. What is the toy to your dogs? So a lot of people say it's a reward. Yes, it is a reward if it's used correctly. A lot of people say it's fun. Yes, again, it should be fun. If you use it correctly, these should be fun for your dogs. A lot of people say, I use it to reward. Yes, you are going to use it to reward, but that is a tool you're going to use. But what do I actually want the toy to be to my dogs? What I want it to be is an extension of me. So without these, they should want to play with me. I am the toy. I'm the fun. I'm the reward. It's the interaction with me that they should value over the interaction with a toy. If they value this more than they value interacting with you, that's where you're going to have a problem. And that's where you're going to have damage to your working relationship with your dogs, because you are the fun to your dogs, not this. This is here to bridge the gap between you and them. So I wrote a few things on the board so we can talk it through together. Retrieve and relationship, they go together. So you've got arrows going both ways here. If you have a good relationship, you can get a good retrieve. If you have a good retrieve, it helps build a good relationship. So they work together. Make it fun when you're playing with your dogs. Don't fake the play, they always know it. So don't play with your dogs because your trainer's told you to try and play with your dogs. Enjoy the game with them, play with them. If you play with them, enjoy the game, and then that goes back up to don't fake it. They know when you're faking that game. Just enjoy it like you used to do when you were younger with them. You are the reward. We talked a lot about that already. Toys bridge the gap. If you're using food, not toys, like I already talked about, use the lotus ball. Put the food in it, teach them to retrieve the lotus ball back to you. So it needs something you can throw. Toys are so useful to have in training for your reward placement, and that again, I'm going to keep saying it, bridging the gap. It's all about this interaction with you. This is the important thing. It's not about the toy, it's about you. Value for you. This is the thing you have to remember all the time, that it's not about the toy, it's not about the equipment, it's not about anything else, you. It's all about you. And if you have a good value, relationship for you, value for you, that's when you can get a much better retrieve. If I am the toy, why do we use the toy at all? I'll tell you why, because when they bite, it really, really hurts. So we use the toy, like I've already said, to bridge the gap between you and them. But you should all be playing with your dogs. If your dogs don't play with you without this, then that makes toy play a lot harder. If you have a dog that you're struggling with toy play with, can you just interact with your dog, just you and them, playing with it, rolling around the floor, getting it to chase you, getting it to jump at you, bite you? Let's go back to our childhoods. If we had dogs when you were a kid, you didn't use toys so much. You played with your dogs, you ran around the house, you made them chase you, they wanted to be with you. It was all about that relationship with them. So toy play is really easy if you have a good play relationship with your dogs. So without this, my dogs would play with me exactly the same as with a toy, but it just really, really hurts. So it's much easier to do with a puppy, because when they bite, it doesn't hurt anywhere near so much as your adult dogs. So get that play relationship with your dogs, get that interaction with them. Once you've got that, then the toy comes into it to, like I said, to bridge the gap between you. So they're not biting you, they're not grabbing you. Some dogs have great bite inhibition, some dogs don't. So it's going to be really fun with some dogs, so they can rag on you, they might pull your clothes a bit, that's great fun. Some will really grab you. So, be careful with them, but try and have that play relationship with them, because then your toy play becomes super easy. So in theory, if you have a great relationship with your dogs, and they understand playing with you, and they have value for you, retrieve should be easy, right? Well, actually, it's really not all the time. It's only in theory. They should always want to bring you the toy because you are the fun, but the toys are fun to the dogs. So we have to teach them all this. It's not just natural. Some dogs, it will be natural for. Others, we have to really teach them to want to bring the toy back to us and not run off and use it as their self-reward. Couple of examples here of an easy retrieve. So Legacy was super easy. She just had to tap your hands on the floor a few times. She thought about it and she came bouncing back in. Lots of tugging, letting her win, redoing the retrieve. Didn't always take it off her, remember. And then in a minute we're going to have commotion. He was really difficult. So he just wanted to lie there with the toy. He didn't want to chase me. If he did chase me, he'd drop the toy. So I had to work so hard on his retrieve. Obviously, dogs like Legacy, the ones we all dream of, whereas this like commotion, they're super, super hard. He just looked, as soon as I went to get it, always did a little runner. So after this, he never was off a long line. He was always controlled, he was always managed, and he was never allowed to practice this behaviour. And now his retrieve is fantastic.
Yeah, get it!
So his commotion's retrieved now. You can see it's a lot better. He always brings the toy back to me. He's got a great retrieve, but I put a lot of work into this, building my relationship with him and building that value to want to bring the toy to me.
Yeah, good boy.
Remember, every dog is different. Some dogs are going to want to guard the toys. Some dogs are going to be really possessive over the toys. Some dogs are really hard to build that great relationship with. Believe me, I've had a few like that. But some come with a natural retrieve that you just clap your hands, they come running back with it. But those ones we can really take for granted and then not work on the relationship and the retrieve like we should do. So make sure you put the effort into teaching this right from the beginning with all your dogs, because if you get that good retrieve and that good relationship, everything else becomes so much easier. So guys, we've talked about all the positives, having a good retrieve, better relationship, no self-rewarding, makes training a lot easier, you don't have to waste time worrying about getting your dogs back to you, and good value for you. What about the negatives of having a bad retrieve, so the bad points? So that self-reward, I talk about that a lot. Your dogs are learning, if they can pick up a toy and run off, that they can have more fun on their own with that toy than they're having with you, which is what you don't want. You want them to have all the fun with you. That's going to affect this, because it's going to have less value for you, because they don't need you. They're like, oh yeah, I'm out of here, I'm playing with a toy by myself, way more fun than playing with mum or dad. So more value for other things. So if they're learning self-reward from there, they're learning self-reward everywhere. So you're going to get fallout in other places, like your recall. They might learn that chasing a squirrel is more rewarding than coming to you. Chasing a car, which is obviously going to be dangerous, is more rewarding than coming to you. You have to be the reward. Having a good retrieve creates you being the rewarding thing in life, because you don't want them having all these things. That's going to affect your relationship, because if your dogs don't recall when you ask them to, they don't come flying back to you. Imagine the feeling when you call your dogs and they come flying back to you every time. That fills you with joy. It makes me so happy when my dogs do that. If I call them, they run off the other direction, it irritates me, it annoys me, it scares me sometimes. So without that, you want them to want to come driving back to you all the time. And what you don't want them to learning is this self-reward of finding everything else rewarding except for you in life. There's something I see all the time when I'm teaching agility is people without a good retrieve. Their dogs get the toy, they run around a bit, they call them, they're going, come here, foo foo, whatever the dog's called. They come halfway back, they run off, they ignore them completely, they have to chase them round, or they stop halfway, you have to go to them, get the toy off them. They're teaching them all the time, they're devaluing that recall name and the dog's name and conditioning them that when they call them, they don't have to come all the way back, which is going to affect so many things. That's not just going to affect your recall, your retrieve, it's going to affect your recall as well in life. If they're learning that when you call them, they don't have to come back. Next time they're chasing that squirrel, chasing that car, chasing that kid, or eating that person's ice cream or sandwich, and you call them, they're not going to come back. So they think, well, they didn't mean it last time, they don't mean it this time. So guys, work on that retrieve, work on that recall, they're the same thing. So we're going to run through a few key points to having a good retrieve. Number one, free toys. What do I mean by free toys? What I mean is them getting toys for nothing. So having access to toys in the house, in the garden, basically just devaluing that interaction with you and the toy because they've got them all the time. Obviously this is age dependent. Puppies, young dogs, you're going to want to have toys around the house so they're not chewing your furniture and destroying everything. So with young dogs, puppies, I have toys in the house. But as they get older, I start to remove toys. I give them things to chew, bones, whatever your dogs like to chew on, but not having an actual toy. And yes, you can say, well, I've got training toys and toys that I have at home. They're still a toy. Toy's a toy. Remember, you're the toy. It's the interaction with you that's the fun thing. They shouldn't have toys everywhere to learn that they can just have more fun with the toys by themselves or with the other dogs than having more fun with you. They should always want to come to you for the toys because that's where the fun's going to be. So you're devaluing that interaction all the time. Once you've trained a retrieve and you're really happy with it and you think your dogs are working, trying their hardest for everything, then absolutely bring toys back into the house and back into their life. Give them, let them have some fun at home. But that again, if they're having that at home, where's the fun? Are they interacting with you or are they interacting with the toy? So it's like if I take my dog training and they have a toy all the time at home and now I ask them to do something really hard for the toy I've got, they might go, well, I'm not going to put all my all into it, or I might just not bother with it, or I might not want to retrieve it because I know I can have fun with this toy by myself. Fine when you're doing fun things, easy things, because it's great fun, but as soon as you ask them to start doing harder stuff, they might not put their all into it because they've got all the value. They're loaded. They've been given toys all the time at home. They're like billionaires. And now you're like, well, this toy is now should be worth £1 billion. We're like, I've already got £1 billion. I'm a billionaire. So try not to devalue your toys at all, which is why I personally don't have toys at home. And I like to only see a toy when I'm interacting with them, with the toy. Because remember, it's an extension of me. So in theory, if there's toys at home, they should constantly want to bring them to me, bring it to me, bring it to me, because they should want the interaction. They shouldn't want to be playing with it by themselves or with the other dogs. And I don't want to be bothered constantly on the sofa watching telly. I want to sit down, I want to chill out, I want them off chewing things, doing whatever they do, but not constantly giving me a toy. So if you ever have a problem with your retrieve, I would suggest decreasing access to free toys until you know the retrieve is really good. If you ever have problems with your dogs not working for you properly or your relationship, I would take toys away at home and only interact with the toys when you're involved with them, not just them interacting with them on their own all the time. Point number 2, don't take it away. So I see so many people, their dogs have a great retrieve and they just go, thank you, and they take it straight off them. And then they do that 2 or 3 times and the dogs start going, oh, you know what, I'll just hang around out here a little bit. I won't bother coming back to them so easy. I won't bother coming back all the way because they know you're going to take the toy away. It sounds like a really obvious point, but it's a good thing to remember. When they do come back to you, play with them, interact with them. Remember, don't fake it. We had it up here earlier. Don't fake the game. Enjoy that game. Have a massive game of tug with them. Let them win it a few times. Then ask them to retrieve again, tug again, let them win, tug again. So they're not always thinking it's tug and then game ends. You've got to keep changing it up all the time. They pattern things so quickly. So tug, let them win, tug, let them win, make it fun. Eventually you might ask them to drop it and then tug again, or you might take it off them. Change it up all the time, but don't almost punish a retrieve by taking the toy away from them all the time. Have a game with them, make it fun, play with your dogs. Point 3, type of toy. So be clever with the type of toys you're using for the retrieve. So if you have a retrieve at home with any kind of toy, perfect, but don't go to a new place with loads of distractions and take their most high value toy or the fluffer they want to shred. Take something a bit more boring, work on the retrieve with a boring toy or a more boring toy, because every dog will find some high value than others. Look at all these different toys I've got here. My guys love the mops, some of them love the chasers, we've got the holy rollers, we've got all sorts. I know which toys each of my dogs finds most rewarding to interact with me with or to chase. Some I use for tugging, some I use for chasing, but be clever with the type of toy you're using when you're training the retrieve. Don't give them something you think, oh, I'm not sure they're going to bring that one back today. Give them something easy and build up to that higher value one, so eventually they will retrieve any toy. So point number 4, guys, try not to let them fail. What I mean by that is the more they pick up a toy and run off with it and they don't, and you can't bring them back, get them back to you, the more they're learning that that's really fun. How many times do you see dogs pick up a toy, run off, owners chase them around, the dog's loving it. They're coming back sometimes or doing the run past and the owner's trying to grab the toys they're running past, or you might have been there yourself. I think we've all been there ourselves sometimes, where you try and rugby tackle your dog as it's doing a run past with the toy. You think, yes, got that one, great retrieve. Well, not really, and they learn to just stay a little bit further away from you each time. So unless I've got a great retrieve, I wouldn't take them anywhere without having a long line on or making sure I don't let go of the toy. So if obviously I'm training agility and I haven't have got a proper retrieve yet, or if I'm teaching people without a proper retrieve, I'll either keep hold of the toy or I'll tell them to keep hold of the toy. If we do let the toy go, they're going to always have a long line on, because then they're not learning to self-reward. They're not learning that game of keep aways. They're learning to always come back in, because if they do try and keep away, you can just sidle up to them, stand on the long line, then you can work on getting them back to you or reel them in. So they're not learning the behavior we don't want them to learn. It's managing your environments, guys, not allowing them to learn the bad stuff, only allowing them to learn the good stuff. Point number 5, guys, it's a massive one, no grabbing. You know, if you know anything about me, you know I go on about this a lot. I talked about it quickly in point 4 with the rugby tackling and the grabbing them as they do the run by. this will devalue every single thing you've worked on. So if they come a little bit further back and you think, oh, I've just about got them, just about, and you suddenly grab them, they're going to learn that next time they're not going to come even that far back. So they're going to stay further away from you. This circle should be around you, should be the circle they want to be in, not the circle of doom. It should be the circle of do, because they want to be in here. So if they don't want to stay outside that reach all the time, you have done something wrong in your training, probably grabbing them, which devalues your relationship. It ruins your relationship, it ruins your retrieve, and it ruins your recall. Something that really drives me crazy is the whole people using a toy for recall, get it, and as they just come just close enough, boom, they got them. Are they going to want to come and play with this toy again? Probably not, because they know you grabbed them. It's not a negative grab, you know, they get them and they go, oh, good dog, we praise you, but the dog has still been grabbed and caught when all it wanted to do was race around and run around and have fun. So no grabbing when you're training retrieve, when you're training recall, do not grab them. If you think you can't catch them, try something else, throw treats on the floor, do something to distract them from what they're doing with the running around with the toy. Somehow make sure they haven't gone anywhere without a long line. Somehow get them back to you without having to do the last minute grab. If you've built tons of value up for your collar grabs, you might get away with a few of them, but it won't last long, and you will get the dogs that want to stay away from you all the time, that want to hang away from you all the time, don't want to bring the toy back to you, and don't want to recall.
Thanks for watching if you made it this far. If you want to learn how to teach a great retrieve, please visit my site where you will find modules on how to teach toy play, relationship, and retrieve.